This video is not intended for kids.
Hello and welcome back. It's been a bit since the first part of this video, which, if you haven't seen, you may want to because it puts this video into perspective. I may get a little ranty on this one. The audio that follows was recorded 3 days after my having first seen the film. Well, let's get into it. Oh, and spoilers ahead. This is a rushed film, and no, I'm not talking about the pacing. I'm referring to the complete lack of attention to story details. This flick could have taken what The Last Jedi laid down and crafted a beautiful conclusion that further distinguishes the sequel trilogy as its own thing. Instead, it jumps on the nostalgia train and placates the fan base that disliked The Last Jedi. What is dangerous about this is that it unfortunately validates the segment within fandom that hated The Last Jedi with extreme toxicity and aggressively attacked Star Wars and those responsible for it. Some may cheer at this, but this quasi-retcon of The Last Jedi, it's advanced with reckless abandon. The film does try to expand the lore, but it fails to give us enough to extrapolate upon with any degree of certainty. It fails to put the elements it introduces into any kind of narrative context. This film very much feels like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson are measuring something that they are figuratively dueling with. All the while, Kathleen Kennedy is sitting on her Sith throne saying, "Good, good." JJ retcons things for the sake of doing so, and then does nothing with the new circumstances he creates. Finn, who he does write well, pays no regard to Rose, except to casually regard her as a Resistance member. Their relationship in The Last Jedi completely wasted. I didn't love their dynamic, but acknowledging that she and Finn have a close friendship, maybe even a romantic involvement, would have made congruent sense. This would have been very easy to do. Well, maybe JJ had a better romantic interest set up for Finn in this film. Nope. The new pseudo love interest is never really played out, and how could it be? The film has no time for it. It also falls back on Finn is in love with Rey. Instead of having that character grow past that, the film hints that Finn wants to tell Rey that he loves her. Only, despite being set up, it never happens. So why did we ignore Finn and Rose? That's right, for the sake of undoing The Last Jedi. Rose gets the Jar Jar treatment in this movie and is relegated to a background character. Alright, let's do it. Let's talk about Luke Skywalker. JJ tried to fix Luke in this film. He tried to restore him in the eyes of the fans. Only Luke didn't need to be restored. The Luke we got in The Last Jedi was the product of 30 plus years of adventuring and explorations through the cosmos, of diving into the deep resources of Force lore. It was an older, nuanced Luke who removed himself from the fight because he understood the battle between the Jedi and the Sith. It's what creates the imbalance in the Force. Powerful light rises and the darkness rises to meet it. When you are dealing with the Sith, who hold fast to the rule of two, this creates a dichotomy of power that favors the one. It's how we got Darth Sidious. This is explained in The Last Jedi. Luke is grumpy and miserable, but he is doing what he feels is right. He is taking a pacifist stand. That is totally Luke Skywalker, the Jedi Knight who defeated the Emperor not by striking him down, but by tossing his lightsaber away, a fact many fail to remember. What we get in The Rise of Skywalker is a Santa Claus-like Luke, full of positivity and light, but no depth. He could have reiterated why he was on the island and honored The Last Jedi, but instead, he admits that he was afraid. So instead of a Luke that sacrificed himself for the galaxy, we get one that was too afraid to help his friends in the struggle against tyranny. That is a complete disregard for who Luke Skywalker is, and ironically, it disrespects the character to the degree many accuse The Last Jedi of doing. It's poor, lazy writing. Rey finding herself disillusioned and attempting to hide on Ahch-To was a great twist, and it could have been poetic. except it's glossed over as Luke catches her discarded lightsaber and literally says, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect." He may as well have winked to the audience. Poe and Finn are written well in this film. Their bromance chemistry really works. Except for Finn's lingering fixation with Rey and the retcon of his relationship with Rose, these characters are highlighted well. Rey and Kylo really pay off in this film. Their chemistry continues to tantalize, and the tension between them intensifies. It's unfortunate the adventure they're in doesn't really serve them. They are set up as a dyad, which is a sort of pairing of souls in the Force. Each is stronger with the other. This actually explains Rey's power spikes, and would have been something worth exploring. Did Snoke lie about having joined their minds? Or did he make them stronger by doing so? Well, never mind all that, because all we're going to get in this film is a sentence from Kylo about it, and one from Palpatine at the end. To be continued in comics and novels. Of this, I'm sure. When this film begins, we understand that Rey has been training, and has somehow developed magical healing powers. Was this knowledge she found in the ancient Jedi texts? Did Leia show her how to do this? Is it special and unique to her and maybe Kylo as their counterbalance in the Force? Great questions, but you won't get any answers in The Rise of Skywalker. It's just something that now is. They heal now? They heal now! Never mind that it's exactly the power Anakin Skywalker died trying to obtain, and it's now somehow fallen into Rey's lap. And if this was something the Jedi had access to, is it rare? Because otherwise, why have we never seen it? None of this is addressed. Surely, it will be in comics and books. But that doesn't excuse the film from giving us no narrative context. But I digress. Let's get back to JJ and his retcons. I love JJ. I hate that I'm so disappointed in how he decided to go about this final episode. I mean, it's not that he didn't have some great, fantastic ideas. He really did. But he's just so hell-bent on undoing The Last Jedi. I mean, Rey is now a Palpatine. It's a half-baked explanation how this is possible. And it happens by way of us finding out that Palpatine has a son he apparently killed because he wouldn't give up Rey. Apparently his mother also wouldn't give up Rey. So is Kylo the only one that can take information out of people's heads? No, because we've seen Vader do it. But his ability was more empathic. Apparently Palpatine was unable to do what Kylo can do. Maybe it's because his son wiped his wife's memory as well as his own. I mean, it's possible. We just don't know. But I'm sure a comic book will tell us. Hashtag lazy writing. Alright, we all saw this one coming. But I have to admit, deep down in my fanboy heart, I was kind of rooting for it. The redemption of Kylo Ren. Once again, JJ gets predictable and retcons The Last Jedi's choice to ascend Kylo as the big bad of this trilogy. The dynamic at play in his redemption leans heavily on his mother, Leia, and the memory of his father, Han. Because of Carrie's unfortunate and tragic passing, JJ felt forced to build scenes around existing footage of Carrie. This worked in some bits, but largely resulted in a detached presence for a beloved princess. The better choice here, I believe, would have been to CGI. The tech is ready for such a push, and Carrie had already agreed to do this in Rogue One. One could assume she would have been okay with it being done again. You get the family's blessing, of course, but it's what would have been best for Carrie Fisher's legacy. I'm sure JJ was honestly making these choices with the best of intentions. It's no secret he was a great admirer of Carrie. Within the context of this film, it seems Leia senses Kylo is in deep conflict. Newsflash, I guess. Maybe it's because it was likely Kylo was about to kill Rey in combat. Anyway, I think she decided to use what's left of her energy, as indicated by a throwaway line from a resistance fighter, to merge her life essence with Kylo and purge him of his hatred, an act that causes her death. either because Rey stabs Kylo, terminally injuring him and causing Leia to die, taking Kylo's hatred along with her, or because it's a massive force feat that triggers her leveling up to Force Ghost status. If that sounds like video game logic, yeah, it kinda is. Anyway, Kylo doesn't die. He is healed by Rey, who is overcome by guilt. Is it because she terminally injured Kylo, having taken advantage of his mercy? Is it because she senses that she actually killed Leia with that blow? This isn't explained. After Rey heals Kylo, she absconds with his ship and an artifact that can lead her to Palpatine. At this point in the movie, she's sworn to kill him in vengeance for the death of her parents. Kylo rises up healed, as if the darkness within him is now dead and there is now only once more Ben. Ben, who at one point turned to the dark side, and could very well do so again. So enter one final component of his turn back to the light: Han Solo. The film actually takes a moment to finally explain something. This isn't really Han, but Ben's image of his father. It's a sort of force memory, another cognitive power that is not explained fully, but actually benefits from the mystery. Despite how it may sound, I don't actually require everything to be explained. This sequence as a whole is impactful, and while clunky and filled with confusing insinuations, it concludes well. Kylo is once again Ben Solo, or Skywalker, if you will. He feels forgiven by his father and filled with a desire to redeem himself. A mother sacrificing herself for the love of her son. That is something that speaks to all of our hearts. It's hard to take issue on how this scene flows, considering we no longer have Carrie to play our princess and general. Despite what Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams want you to believe, Palpatine was so a last minute afterthought. This is not to say that it wasn't great to see him. I mean, you get a sense that he's been diving deep into dark side magics and abilities, perhaps similarly to how the Night Sisters did in the Clone Wars. He has thousands of dark side acolytes. You get a real ancient Sith vibe about things, and it's unlike anything we've seen in live action before, so I really dug it. So now let's talk about Snoke, a character that I really enjoyed. Now, Snoke is relegated to a dime a dozen villain here. Literally, Palpatine says, "I made Snoke," as Kylo walks past a vat of disregarded Snokes. Literally, like it's like a jar of Snokes. Are they reanimated corpses? Are they clones that are disfigured by the complexities of cloning dark side users? Is this why Palpatine can't simply clone himself? These are great questions to which we get no answers. Was Snoke an agent of Palpatine, or did Palpatine control him like a puppet? Fans raged over not knowing how Snoke amassed the First Order, but don't seem to mind it was Palpatine that created it. Not only the First Order, but now an even larger force called the Last Order. How did he get these soldiers? Why did he feel the need to divide his forces? Was he scared of Luke and so he sent Snoke to deal with him? All great questions we don't get answers to. Are the Sith troopers humanoids? Seems to make sense since Palpatine prefers humanoids, but would it not have been more interesting if they were composed of unknown region species? I mean, we've built so much mystery around the unknown regions, and everything just looks pretty much the same as it does everywhere else. I mean, it would have been great if we got like different alien species. Imagine stormtroopers with like three arms, or like, extra appendages, or larger in size, or just any variation that lets us know, hey, there are weird things in the unknown regions. However, I guess JJ thought that painting the stormtroopers red was a good choice. And once again, lazy writing. We don't actually know if Snoke was Palpatine or if he was his own sentient being, but If Snoke was Palpatine and he was the one that linked the minds of Kylo and Rey, then wouldn't he know that they are, in fact, a dyad? So why is he shocked to discover this at the climax of the film? He literally says, "Oh, you are a dyad. New plan," and displays a new dark side ability that, while present in the expanded universe, has never been properly explained in canon. He is able to drain life force from Force users. Only is this strictly in regards to a dyad? I mean, he only uses this after discovering that Rey and Kylo are a dyad. So perhaps he can only be restored by a dyad. Only this dark side ability only works when in conjunction with a dyad. Well, hell if I know. It's never explained in the movie, so I bring in the comics, I guess. Palpatine restored displays immense power. I mean, once restored, he's just like literally shooting force lightning into the cosmos, and just ships are just raining down all around his temple. And he claims to now be every Sith made one. And I guess that makes sense from a rule of two perspective. It makes sense from a Sith perspective, but Rey is now apparently all of the Jedi as well. She's seen at the beginning of the movie practicing a summoning power. And yes, this film does sound like a video game. It leans heavy into video game logic. At the end of the movie, she is granted this summoning ability because, well, one presumes the Jedi of old decided it was time. She then confronts the Emperor and destroys him. Basically, it plays out like this: "I'm Palpatine, I'm back, unlimited power! Oh, crap, now I'm dead." The act, for some reason, kills Rey. I guess having that much power in her and deflecting that much power just kills her. But she is resurrected by Kylo. Again, this is the ability Anakin Skywalker died trying to obtain, and Kylo just magically has it now. She comes back from the dead. We get our Reylo payoff. Finally, there is a kiss between them, and it really plays well. I mean, I was really happy. Um, and then Kylo dies. Apparently, bringing her back is one of those force feats that causes you to transcend into the force, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he went to hell. Who knows? Because he did a lot of bad things. But it's also possible that this healing ability works to heal wounds, but if you use it to heal death, then basically you're taking that death into you and it kills you. Again, these are cool concepts that are not explained in the movie, and I'm sure we'll get in a comic book or something, some supplemental material down the road. Okay, now that I've vented all my complaints and gotten them out of the way, save for a few spatial awareness issues and a few flaws in internal logic that I didn't touch base on, I can now tell you that despite all this, there is plenty to love in this film. It's a gorgeous movie with beautiful cinematography, perfect sound design, superb special effects, and a score that only John Williams can deliver. The action choreography is well constructed and it plays out like a ballet. The duels are reminiscent of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. The characters, save for Luke and Leia, are written well. The dark side lore that is introduced, though poorly articulated, it just explodes off the screen, and it's really cool to see. The Emperor, despite being an obvious afterthought, lends gravitas to the film, and he is fun to watch. This is a fun film, and loads of fans will love it. If The Rise of Skywalker does well, and I'm sure it will, if it restores balance in fandom, then it's a film I welcome. Despite my gripes with it, I'm sure my disappointment will likely lessen as the supplemental materials start to fill in the plot holes and inconsistencies. It's just a sad state of affairs that that's what we have to wait for to make sense of a film. Oh, and just two more final points. hyperspace skipping may look cool, but how the hell are those TIE fighters still chasing? Do they have hyperdrives? Are they now all able to track through hyperspace? Not explained. I'm sure a visual dictionary will give us a few sentences and we'll get an answer to that eventually. Maybe Pablo Hidalgo will tell us. The Haldo maneuver is explained to be a 1 in a million shot, something that I argued was the case from day one. Those ships were somehow in the perfect proximity to one another to create that impact trajectory. It's not something you can easily recreate. Thank you, JJ. Really, honestly, thank you for articulating that. Why this was such a huge point of contention for so many fans is beyond me, but that's another video entirely. Well, I think I've got it all out of my system now, so this has been Gabe's Filmcast, special Star Wars edition, the Rise of Skywalker discussion. Thank you for watching. Please hit like, share, subscribe. More content is coming, and yeah, it's gonna get crazy.